Guys, welcome. Welcome to the Jibrael Hindi Show, episode 2. Let me start off by saying better late than never. Guys, for those of you that are tuning in right now, thank you for your patience. We are admittedly an hour and a half late. Traffic sucks in Miami. Here's the thing, guys. Today for episode 2, which as we know is why most lawyers stay average, I have a special guest. And it's not just a guest, it's family. And when you have family on the show, I cannot just improvise an introduction. I improvise almost everything. Literally everything I do on camera, they call me One Take Jay behind the scenes, and that's the truth. But I did write an introduction for you, Zane. Okay? Here it goes, guys. All right. So, for today's show, this is what I will say. Most lawyers think success comes from memorizing statutes. They think money comes from being the smartest person in the room. That's why, in my opinion, most lawyers stay painfully average. Tonight, I'm bringing on someone that proves the opposite. Someone who proves that the right mentorship, the right environment, and the right systems can turn a young lawyer into a monster in this industry. My guest tonight is Zane Hedaya, one of my partners at the firm. I've been mentoring Zane since his first year of law school. I've been privileged to do that. He came straight to my firm the moment he graduated, and in only 2 years, he has become one of the highest earning lawyers in America with his level of experience. He is handling some of the most complex cases in the country: mass arbitrations, class actions, TCPA, and FCRA, and other consumer protection litigation. To be fair, I started in complex litigation. Pretty crazy. Let's see. I have a couple more words for you, Zane. He is reinventing how young lawyers approach complexity and changing the entire perception of what a lawyer with 2 years of experience can be. So tonight, we will be talking why most lawyers stay average, how to break out of average, how mentorships can create monsters, and how the next generations of lawyers can rise if they are willing to do the work. I did the work just now by reading this. It felt kind of awkward. We pulled it off. Zane, tell the world what you want the world to know about you. You've been kind of behind the scenes for a while, but I told you, we have to start putting some shine on you, because the way my firm is gonna grow is not just by me growing, but I need my people, my key people in there, to have their own personal brand for the outside world to know what they're about. And for those that are willing to learn about you and those that actually stick and resonate with you, that's the future of our firm. Talk to them.
Yeah, so just a little background on myself. Currently, I'm obviously a partner at the law offices of Jibrael Hindi. I've been a partner for a little over a year right now. My path to consumer protection law is a little bit unusual. I think most people kind of stumble into this field and then they see kind of what it's about and what you can do within this field, and they really latch on. I actually went to law school in the first place with the goal of being a consumer protection lawyer. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a lot of funny looks in law school when people asked me what I wanted to do with my law license, and I said, hey, I wanna sue telemarketers. They're like, hey, that's great. And I'm like, they don't know.
When you called me that first year they were in law school, and we don't gotta get into the nitty gritty how you actually found me, it's a pretty cool story. A lawyer that I used to fight against knew his dad, and that lawyer recommended that Zane talk to me. But here's the interesting thing. When Zane called me, he was like, you know, I seen what you've done, and I wanna do consumer protection. What was mind baffling to me was that a first-year lawyer even knew those two words going together. They don't teach consumer protection in law school. And kind of off topic, but interestingly, consumer protection doesn't sound that sexy. Criminal defense, data breach, civil litigation, these are all the sexy words. Consumer protection sounds very boring. Keep going, Zane. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, when people ask me what type of law I practice, I used to always say consumer protection, but it doesn't sound sexy. So now I say I'm a class action consumer protection
I do the same thing.
Yep. But yeah, so I went to law school with the goal of being a consumer protection attorney. Just a little bit of background. I was a baseball player growing up. I always wanted to be a professional baseball player. My mind was hyper focused on that. I worked extremely hard to reach that goal. In high school, I actually rode the bench all throughout high school. And I told myself I might not be the most talented person on this team, but I'm damn sure that no one's going to outwork me. I was the hardest worker on my team. And I actually I committed to play Division I baseball, the highest level of collegiate baseball, with only like 5 innings pitched in my high school career, just through my hard work. And that really taught me, when you really commit yourself to something, even if you don't have the level of talent that other people have,
Yes.
you can really achieve anything.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the baseball thing didn't work out for me. I dealt with injuries in college. And the second that I realized, I don't want this anymore, I'm like, I can't be doing something that I don't want. And within 3 months, I had a conversation with my dad and I actually pivoted like that. I'm gonna be not just a lawyer, I'm gonna be a consumer protection lawyer, and I'm gonna run a law firm. And I studied for the LSAT, took the LSAT, applied to law schools, just knowing that I was going to do this. It was kind of like blindly trusting my dad, and he knew what I needed to do. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to commit all of this time to this pursuit. And went through law school, graduated first in my class in law school. But I mean, I didn't do the things that they tell you to do in law school. Like, you gotta interview with big law, you gotta go to the career day. I just thought that that's not for me. I want to have my own firm one day. I'm not gonna do that going to big law,
Right.
and following the traditional approach.
Well, you know what? You had very rare foresight to see that that's not the best option. As we discussed a couple times, in preparation for this show and in the times we've interacted, it seems like the legal industry and law schools try to pitch that idea that going to big law is the goal. Going to big law is what gets you made. We'll get into that, but I do want to touch on something else, a couple things you touched on. Number one, you were an athlete, okay? You still are an athlete, actually. Same with me. I was an athlete through middle school, high school, college. As I got busier in my career, I could not play team sports anymore. I got into jiu-jitsu, had an injury. I got into bodybuilding, and I became pro. Just like you, when you commit yourself to something, as I've seen you do since I've met you, since your first year of law school, when we were communicating, you go for everything, okay? And that is definitely a firm-wide culture that I have instilled. And it's not a coincidence that you are literally saying that you've built this, you had that discipline when you were an athlete, right? You had the discipline to keep going. You were riding the bench. What do you say, three out of 4 years?
Three out of 4 years. I had like 5 innings pitched in my high school career when I committed.
And you got scouted off
when
those
I committed
innings.
to play college.
And you got scouted off those innings, okay? And that goes to business also. A lot of times people fail and they lose, not because they actually lost on the field, so to speak, in business, by competition killing them or them making the wrong move. It's literally because they didn't make that first step. You kept going, you actually got scouted. You had all reason to stop. But here's the cool thing. That's why you're so successful at the firm. That's why I was so successful when I was running the show, like the first 6, 7 years, is because I had the discipline knowing that if I put the time in, if I stay consistent, if I put the blinders on, and I trust in my decision, in the route that I took, just like you decided, I'm gonna go consumer law. And obviously, you did your research, it was a well-founded decision, you put your blinders on, you kept going. In sports, what I've seen for a lot, I have nearly 100 employees in all my businesses. What I've seen is the ones that were serious in sports, they do well in business, or military. Again, it's that trust in the system, in the persistence, in knowing that some days you're gonna be motivated, some days you're not, but it's a marathon, it's not a race. Here's the thing, guys. In my firm, we've had many associates. And obviously not all of our associates, and this is going back to the topic of today's show, why most lawyers do average. And not all of my associates our partners, obviously. To be candid, there are instances, it's not now because we have a very good team in there, where we've had associates that, and even me and Zane have said this, like we don't see them ever being partners. And it's a hard thing to say. It may seem unfair, but it's not, okay? We can tell who's in there because they're counting their hours and they want to get the minimum done. And we can tell who's staying after hours. And it's not to stay after hours to say, hey, I stayed 2 hours extra. It's done in the dark. Or they're working on weekends. In the dark, not trying to boast, oh, I worked this weekend, but they're showing it by the results that they're bringing back to the firm. Here's one thing I want to say, guys. My success, and it's actually the same thing with Zane. You know what, before I say, let me ask you, Zane, do you work on weekends?
Yeah, that's when I get most of my work done.
Would you say that's like, that's where the magic happens?
100%, because everything's calm and you can just lock in and focus.
I always say that. You know, through the week, as lawyers and many other professions, we're constantly being reactive, emails, deadlines, putting this fire out, this person, that person, whatever. The list goes on and on. And it's not that we're bad lawyers, that's just the nature of the business, okay? But you gotta put in that overtime. And it's typically on the weekends for me, and for Zane the same thing, where the magic happens. What I mean by that, to you lawyers out there watching, and to perhaps you law students, or again, like I said, guys, this even applies in business, okay? In many business, you're reactive. You gotta put in that overtime. Here's what happens. I forgot if it's like, they call it the 80-20 rule, 90-10 rule, whatever it is. But there's a saying, and it's very true, that 90% of your bigger successes in business come from that 10% of the time. And I have 100%, no pun intended, found that to be the case on my weekends. Because what am I doing on weekends? Or what was I doing? And you know what's so cool? Now I have lawyers in there doing this stuff. And we'll get to that also about growth, which I never would have thought would happen. And it's come to the point that they're actually starting practice areas that I'm not even aware are there. And that happened recently, that we got a settlement, which means it was litigated for like a couple months. I'm like, we do that in our office? That is, oh my God, that feeling is indescribable. Anyway, back to the weekends, where the magic happens. That's when I could actually go and research new judge opinions. Guys, lawyers, I'm giving you some value here. And a lot of this stuff sounds very simple. It is simple. Or very logical. Yes, it is logical. I would literally go look at the last 20 orders that were issued in the Southern District of Florida. And I would see what are the hotbeds of other lawyers filing cases. From that, every practice area that we have in our firm right now came from that. And it continues to come from that or other similar strategies. Were you with us when we were doing the housing discrimination cases?
I was not. We still do a little bit of it, but not when you were really doing it.
Yeah, so about 3 or 4 years ago, for about a year and a half, I was doing these housing discrimination cases where in South Florida, Miami-Dade, and West Palm Beach, landlords, and this is a case that I found because a motion to dismiss was either granted or denied. And then I looked into the statute and it filled all the specs that I like, so to speak. You know, attorney fee shifting provision, defendant is responsible for attorney's fees if we prevail, and also scalability, okay? Guys, you know, there may be practice areas out there that seem very appetizing, but you have to look at other things like, is it scalable? What's the turnaround time on it? Is it something that happens often? Or is this just like gonna be like what volume can you predict? Again, that goes back to scalability. But back to this housing stuff, without going too deep into it, it's an area of law that generated me, I don't know, maybe $10 million over 2 years. But the cooler thing about this was we literally made about, 1,000 apartment buildings in South Florida changed their policies, and they could not anymore, because the law office Jibrael Hindi stepped in, they could not anymore illegally deny Section 8 housing vouchers from living there. And the argument was, which is the truth, when you're telling someone that you do not accept Section 8 housing vouchers, when the law says you can't do that, you are literally trying to do one thing and one thing only. That's discrimination. How can I tell you that? Because it's a fact that Blacks, and Hispanics are disproportionate is an understatement. We'll use the word disproportionately recipients of those vouchers. I was a recipient of those vouchers, or my family was, or my mother was when she was a single mom. So that goes very, that goes to me personally, okay? So anyway, that was from something that I found just monitoring PACER filings. I do think this is an important topic, so I'll go to one more. And I want to shout this guy out. You guys saw him this weekend at the Consumer Protection Conference. Every year there's a Consumer Protection Conference. I've been going for the last 11 years since I started practicing law. This was the first year that I did not go. NCLC. Shout out to NCLC. Shout out to everybody out there, to all my fellow consumer protection lawyers. But Zane and Gerald led our team, and they led our firm into this year's conference. I was not there. I would never imagine in my life that I would have my team going and I was not present. Because for the first 8 years I was going there. That goes to also, which we will be talking about today, people are so important. People are so important. Anyway, I talked about how I found the housing case. It led to this much money. I found it off an order. Another line of cases, I almost forgot to do the shout out. Greenwald. Greenwald. Why am I forgetting his first name?
Michael Greenwald.
Michael Greenwald, fellow consumer protection lawyer out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Legend. He had this case 3 years ago. You remember what case I'm talking about here? Yeah. What is it?
Florida Consumer Collection Practices Act, time violations, time zones.
Emails.
Yep.
Email violations. Email time zone violations. Greenwald, you got a ruling. You got a positive ruling. You did the legwork. And I was like, why are you not filing more of these? Because literally every company is violating. So basically, it was a case where Mike Greenwald made the argument, because there's a law, FCCPA, it says you cannot communicate with a consumer between hours 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. The FCCPA was written in the 70s. We didn't have emails. Greenwald was the genius mastermind behind it, said, you know what? An email is a communication. So this email by, I think it was Capital One, at 10 p.m. asking the consumer to make a payment is illegal under the FCCPA. Brilliant. He won. I looked at that order about 4 months after. I was like, why hasn't he filed more of these cases? And I decided to follow those cases. And for like 2.5 years, I probably filed, 5,000 plus cases. And we did obviously very well. Here's the point, guys. What's the pattern here? Why are most lawyers average? Why are some outliers? It's in the intricacies of how we, and the intricacies are our mindset of how we generate cases. You can't wait for those cases to knock on your door. Nobody knocks on doors anymore.
No, absolutely.
And if people are knocking the door these days, as a comedian said, I forgot which one it is. Oh, it was actually the Italian one. People get scared, like, who's that? Why is it something, Yeah. So they're definitely not knocking on legal doors. You have to go out there and find things. You have to go out there and find things so that you can educate the public. When you do that, you're doing two big things. One, you're putting yourself from a reactive standpoint in generating business to an active. And guys, if you like law, I love law. This is fun. This is like hunting safari. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. Literally, It's like shooting game. Okay? And Zane, let me ask you this. So yeah, guys, very important thing. Go on PACER. Look at recent rulings. Go on Westlaw. You know what I would do? I would actually type in Westlaw. I would say class certification granted. And I would look in the last year, because now I'm looking at cases where class certification was granted. That's strong. You know what I mean?
If you've got good facts for a class action, you're just going to generate so much more volume, so much more money, even with a volume practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this now, because you've been with me for 2 years. Your mindset is already there. But let's just go way back. Let's go back those 24 months, whatever the time you've been with me. Did you immediately notice a difference in the approach of how we looked for cases? Essentially what I just described?
Yeah, I mean,
Because you're doing it today these days. I want you to get into that.
we're always at least 2 steps ahead of everybody else. By the time,
And those steps are like not like little steps. Those are like light year steps. Okay.
by the time a practice area has blown up and the case law has gone south, we've been out of it for 6+ months.
We in, we out. We get the money, no doubt.
No.
You know, I want to emphasize that. You got to stay ahead of the curve, literally. So not only are you getting out there finding that stuff, but you got to be a little careful. And you know, you go for your volume if that's what you're into, but you got to be careful. And guess what, guys? Capitalism is its purest form in the legal industry. I do not own a monopoly on any of the cause of action. Those cause of actions are laws. Those laws were written for everybody to be accessed by anybody. But obviously, when you start filing a lot of cases, you attract a lot of attention. Okay, and that's a different story. Let's call that a good problem to have. But what should you be always doing? Just like in a stock market, just like in any other investment, you got to diversify yourself. You got to hedge yourself. If I found this practice area and I go all in on it, and Mike Greenwald decides to get back at me now, which to be fair, Mike, you never want volume anyway. You don't need to go volume because you're brilliant and you get class certification all the time. Every time I see class certification, it's from you. Brilliant. But anyway, you want to stay ahead of the curve, always be looking for that next one. As a matter of fact, implement that next one. We have at all times between 4 to 5 practice areas going. And since I started, those 4 to 5 have changed, except for one. I'm not going to tell you which one that is. It's a dynamic industry that is mostly led by undynamic characters. Why is this so natural to me? I come from the business world. Zane also comes from the business world. Zane is actually a very humble guy. Because, and let's go into another topic on why most lawyers are average. Here's how I'll lead this one off. And this has to do with self-motivation and sense of urgency and the desire to succeed, the pure desire to succeed. And I'll start off this topic by talking about Zane. That's why I have him here today. Zane's been with me over 2 years. I said that many times. It was not until, 2 months ago, that I found out that Zane, if he didn't want to work, he could probably figure out a way not to have to work. Zane comes from a family of brilliant people. And I found that out because a couple months ago, Zane's like, hey, my dad's gonna be stopping by the office. You know, I think he would like this. I go, are you kidding me? Let me know. I need to shake this man's hand. He raised such a great guy. I also met his mother around that time also. That day does come. I sit down with his father. Within the first 10 seconds, I could already tell this guy's a genius. I could tell that this guy, I actually had to say, like, is this your dad? Okay. And it was. And we talked business. Very sharp guy. Clear entrepreneur. Clear, knows where the trends are. We're talking AI. We're talking tech. He leaves. I go, Zane, like, you grew up like around this stuff? He's like, yeah. I'm like, your dad had like companies, a lot of companies. Yeah, my dad probably had, 50, 100 companies. And I don't mean, and this is still Zane saying, I don't know, he probably forgot how many, I probably forgot how many. I was like, I was kind of struck because Zane has never, ever, number one, used that as a crutch. To the contrary, his level of drive and lack of content, unless it's actually there, that doesn't come from people that have the opportunity to just really throw the towel in whenever they want. That typically comes from people that are hungry. And you typically cannot manufacture hungry. You typically cannot teach hungry. Shout out to John Morgan, that's his term. That is something that has to be in your DNA. Zane never even mentioned these things because on the other hand, maybe you're one of those guys that I want to get it on my own. I'm not going to rely on daddy's money. But you still see these guys, they still talk about daddy's money though. Zane has never done neither. And I want to say that is truly admirable. But what's even more admirable is that you've actually gotten to the point where you've made a name for yourself. Not only through the legal community, not only amongst your peers, not only of course your family, but when you look at yourself in the mirror, you know that everything you have, you earned. And that's what drove me. The hunger is what drove me to have that desire to be able to look at myself in the mirror. And man, when I have somebody in my office that has that, because what I'm describing right now, some people just simply don't understand. It's not that they're bad people, it's just, but when that resonates with somebody that's on my team, that's an equal in the firm, man, that's the happiest thing that I can think of. Man. So, what does this all lead to? In order to not be average, you have to not accept average. You have to literally want to be at the top. And you cannot set the goal for anything less than that. Zane did that. He graduated number 1 in his law school. He never told me he graduated number 1 law school. And that's actually kind of effed up. You know why? Because I actually graduated number 2 in my law firm. And here and there, I'll say it in the office, you know, just jokingly.
And I'm just sitting back knowing I graduated 1.
Man, and this guy right here, he's never said, now I got to put my tail between my legs, and I'm not talking about graduate number 2 no more. You got to start talking about graduate number 1, because guess what? A lot of people are looking up to you, a lot in the firm. And also your character has changed a lot. And I think you know that, right?
Yeah.
And your demeanor. And I knew it would. And where am I coming from? When you first started, you were a bit more, okay, before we get into this, let me just, we wrapped up the fact that you have to look, so 2 lessons so far. You have to go out there and look for the cases, okay? And there's a way to ethically do this, I just explained it. You also have to not accept being average. Truly in your heart, have the hunger to be the best. Have the hunger to do the best work for your clients, and have the hunger to just purely, in the rawest fashion, want to be number 1. And I have that every single day. Going into the third topic here. Actually, do you want to add anything into that?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about, you know, me and you have very different backgrounds in terms of our upbringing. And I think it really surprised you that I had the upbringing that I did, and I still have the hunger and the drive that I do. A big factor of that is dealing with adversity and overcoming adversity. When I was 11 years old, I had cancer, and I got through that.
Yes.
When I played baseball and I wanted to become a professional baseball player, I wasn't playing. I was sitting the bench, and I got through that, and I got to play Division I baseball.
And you got stronger from it.
Having those moments where you're able to overcome adversity are huge. And if you're able to do that, it doesn't matter what your upbringing is, that teaches you that if you set your mind to something and you work hard enough, you can overcome anything, you can do anything, you can be anything you want to be.
And you know what? It seems like I keep going to the same saying. You probably heard me say it over here, but that adversity is what makes you stronger. That adversity is what makes you look at something as adversity right now, going through it, facing that again, but it's no longer in your adversity bucket. This is just how I wake up to with that level of stress. I was actually talking about that at my pump mastermind a few days ago. And Sid, shout out to you. He literally asked me, how do you deal with stress? Because he sees me around, he sees all the stuff I'm doing, how do you deal with stress? And I said, I literally just tell myself I'm a fucking champion. And I literally understand that stress in the mind is just like stress when you're lifting weight. You know, when I started lifting weight, let's say I'm doing 45 pounds on the we call it a caddy, 45 pounds, maybe I could get 1 rep. But then eventually it goes to 2, to 6, to 8, to 10. And now what was a stress load on me is literally a warm-up. Same thing in life, you know? And the truth is, and I have been dealing with this for the last 3-4 years, I've grown a lot in many areas. The higher you go, there's a direct correlation with stress. Actually, exponentially, and other problems. But that's part of the fun for me. And I want to say this is another big point. you have to embrace stress. If you want to be better, if you want to be more than average in anything, as we're speaking about today in law, you have to accept that you're going to have more than average stress. And frankly, because I see it every day, I've hired a lot of lawyers, I have a lot of employees. Frankly, some people, a lot of people, just don't want to deal with that. And if you don't want to deal with stress, well, guess what? Average is going to want to deal with you. I want to touch on one more thing, adversities. And I think there might be a need for this. I'll be really quick on this. It does deserve more time, but I'll be really quick because there might be somebody out there right now that's listening needs to hear this. And I do tell this story from time to time. And it had to do probably 5 years ago. I was 5 years in my practice, and long story short, I was on that grind, right? Nonstop, Monday through Monday, 20 hours. I just want to, I'm young, I got my law degree. I want to just get everything I can get. Not understanding that when the OGs tell me, be careful of burnout, I just thought burnout was because they could not run at my level. Until I hit burnout. And then, you know what came from that immediately? Depression, clinical depression. And it was so bad, I could literally not get out of my bed to go to the kitchen. Some of you people watching out there probably understand what I'm talking about. But before, and by the way, I was in this condition for 6 months. It was very scary, to say the least. And I lost everything. I literally remember when I had to call my team. I didn't have partners at that time, but I had to call my couple paralegals. I had to call my office manager, who's still with me today, and maybe another two people, an intake person I had. And I said, I'm sorry, but I just cannot function. It's obviously a lot more emotional than what I'm presenting it to be, but I remember praying every single night, saying, God, get me out of this thing I'm in. When you're in depression, you're like in a different world, and you think that it's reality. Like you're 100% set on it's reality. You're like, there's no way out of this. And I would pray, like, get me out of this, God. And I promise you that if you do, wherever I have an opportunity, I will raise awareness to mental health condition. And God got me out of it. I did take some medication. I did do some talk therapy. Thank God I'm not on any of that right now. And if you are, there's nothing wrong with that. Thank God that you sought treatment. But what I do want to say, guys, is we are not machines. And that's another lesson, guys. You have to take care of yourself. You want to be better than average? You have to have a machine, not just your law firm and your systems, but your body, your mind. It has to be clear. You have to get rid of toxicity in your life. That could be coming from people. That could be coming from business colleagues. And you have to take care of your health. But back to the mental health stuff. If anybody out there is watching right now, and now you knowing that I've been through this, I always say on my videos or whatever, I say, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you. If I can help you with anything. And these are the things that I mean that I'm here for. It's not about money, okay? It's about my wisdom from my experiences, my knowledge. I've been through the ringer. And you know what? When I had to give up everything, when I had to literally give up everything because I couldn't do it because I was in a terrible state mentally, I would have never thought, zero chance. And guys, I'm a high stakes gambler in everything I do. So I go for the long shots, but I did not think there was a chance I could get back to where I was. You know how good God is? Not only did I get back there, but I've surpassed it to levels I could not ever imagine. So, to try to keep this organized, guys, because I did promise, solutions here. Topic number 4, take care of yourself, take care of your mind, take care of your body. One more thing on that point. I talk about all this at the Pump Mastermind every month. But I just want to make clear, if anybody out there needs help, you don't need to go to the Pump Mastermind. You can DM me. My email is published. My phone number is published. And I mean that. If there's one thing I can ever do out there is to help somebody that went through this, because I know how dire of a situation it is. I'm sorry about that lengthy stuff, but I did promise God that whenever I had an opportunity to have an audience to hear this, I have to do that.
Of course, of course.
What's another thing that comes to mind? Oh, do you want to comment on any of that stuff?
The one thing I would comment on is, going through adversity and overcoming that also increases your risk tolerance, which I think translates well into a conversation we're about to go into, and how you can be, an entrepreneurial attorney as opposed to the average attorney.
We got to get into that. And on top of that, this is what I was about to say also. So going through adversity makes you stronger. It does alter your risk appetite and how you perceive risk, but it also alters your understanding of how things work. What I mean by that? In the beginning, when I'm going through these mental shifts and I don't know what to do, but now that's part of the game. So like half of the battle is knowing that, hey, this is part of it. Adversities are part of it. And even just that acceptance alone, for me at least, and I think a lot of people can agree, is close to at least half the battle. Because now it's not like a shot at you and you know where the fuck it came from. Now you know that shot's coming eventually, but you're armoring up, so to speak. Yeah. So you got to look at the intrinsic value. Look at everything as an opportunity. Look at everything as a blessing. That stress is a blessing. People wish they were in a position to have your stress. People wish that they could be in a position to say that I have a business to look forward to. I have a legal career to look forward to. This is called gratitude. If you don't have gratitude, you're never going to be happy because you're always going to be looking at what's next. You're never looking back and saying, well, thank God. Business. I forgot. You had a business background in undergrad?
I was an economics major.
Economics major. Yeah, that's like fundamental, hardcore business background. Ben Bernanke, head of Federal Reserve. What's another name, head of Federal Reserve? Do you remember any? I remember Ben Bernanke. He looked like Uncle Ben Bryce or whatever.
I used to know all of them in college, but now I don't remember anything.
Me too. I used to remember him. Oh, Powell. Jerome Powell.
Powell's
Jerome
right.
Powell.
Yeah.
So I was a finance major in undergrad. I was also a stockbroker a few years before that. I've always loved numbers. Specifically, I've always loved numbers with dollar signs on them. And it's not because of the money. I just like the game. I want you to talk about how business and our perception of the law, because we're both on the same track of that. You talk about it.
Yeah, I think the big difference between us and the average attorney that might be starting their own shop or the average attorney that might be working for big law is we approach everything that we do in our firm with a business-oriented mindset. Other attorneys, they'll be hyper-focused on their motion for summary judgment that's due next week, and then they finally submit that, okay, I got a motion to dismiss that I have to respond to. Okay, now I have to send a discovery deficiency letter. I got to draft a motion to compel discovery responses.
Or the implications of, should we even be fighting this thing right now?
Exactly.
Not because we can't fight, not because we're weak.
Yeah.
Not even because maybe we do have a winning argument. But sometimes, and we face this a lot, that we have to make these decisions, we might not want to even risk it, even if it's a 10% chance we're gonna lose, because that means losing a whole practice area.
Yeah, and that's something that attorneys don't really realize, that don't have that business-oriented mindset. They go into the ruling thinking about, just that case, but they don't think about the ramifications that could happen if they lose, especially at the appellate level. Yeah. And that can be huge. I mean, there's certain decisions that you should be looking at with a business-oriented mindset. If it's not 90% or higher that I'm going to win this thing, I might need to, figure something else out here.
What we're touching on right now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are in very important territories in this conversation. Yeah. We kind of started kind of in depth in a very isolated example. I want to back up a little bit. This is what I want to say, first of all. Lawyers that are above average, okay, especially when it comes to above average in money, which I'm pretty sure everybody assumes is what we're talking about here. They're not the best lawyers. but they're good businessmen. It's not the best lawyer that makes the most money. Just like it's not the best singer that sells the most albums. Rather, it's the singer that has the most notoriety, following, and in today's day and age, it's the same with the legal industry. Am I a good lawyer? I think so. I think so. Better than a lot. I have rulings. I've won appellate decisions. I've shaped law. Am I the best? Definitely not. But I can say I'm in the top 1% in producing income, right? And that is because I've done things like build a personal brand that funnels people into the existence of my law firm, among my other businesses. I realized, I stopped at a certain point, maybe 3 or 4 years into my career. I said, where are we right now in the world of marketing? Where's the future? And the time is now. I have to start now. Okay. When was the best time to start to plant a tree? Yesterday, second best today. And thank God I took that first step. Because look where we are now. I got the Jibrael Hindi Show. I got Zane as a brother, as a partner, as somebody that motivates me. It's incredible. And it happened, and here's the lesson, guys, number 5. If you don't understand business, you better get reading. You have to look at your firm as more of a business than a law firm. And let me be very careful with what I'm saying. Of course, you have to be more than adequate at your practice area. You have to be very good at it. But you have to make sure that you're in the right practice area to begin with. Here's an example, guys. And a lot of you guys aren't gonna like this. And there's a reason why a lot of you guys are not gonna like this, because a lot of you guys shouldn't be in there, okay? Let's take the world of criminal defense. And at the same time, let's take personal injury. I wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer when I first started law school. And then I said I want to go civil, and the first thing that came to mind was personal injury. Apparently, that same thought process happens to like 101% of lawyers. In all seriousness, there are a lot of criminal defense lawyers out there. Not so many criminals out there, so you got a lot. This is basic economics, guys. This is why I'm saying you got to know basic economics, okay? And you can learn this on your own. You got a lot of criminal defense lawyers. You got a very limited amount of criminals.
Criminals that are willing to pay that hourly rate.
On top of that, criminals usually are criminals because they don't got money, right? So now you got a lot of lawyers chasing a very scarce commodity, criminals, and even within that, an even more scarce commodity of criminals with money. And then those criminals with money are going to go for the best. Side point, guys, you always want to try to be the best in whatever it is you're doing. Always aim for the best. The best make 90%, everybody else shares 10%, okay? That's a bonus side piece right there, okay? So, let's now go to the civil guys, the personal injury guys. You got tort reform up your butt. I was reading about tort reform when I was in law school. It's still going, okay? You got every single lawyer that's going into civil, going into personal injury. You got you have statutory caps on med mal. You have statutory caps on fees. You're capped out everywhere, literally. Your acquisition cost for case is simply stated. This is not an opinion. It's a fact. One of the highest cost per lead in the legal industry. And the case takes like, I don't know, on average, PI lawyers out there. Is there anybody in the comments right there? Okay, we'll get that, okay. Maybe on average a year. So you have a slow turnover game with a lot of competition, chasing finite, very scarce opportunities, and you're paying the highest dollar cost for those opportunities. Like, I look at this as I did 10 years ago when I got out of law school. I was like, there must be some low-hanging fruit. Oh yeah, there's some low-hanging fruit. What the fuck? And there's an abundance of it. Why are these guys not like on this tree? Like, why are they fighting over that rotten tree over there? I don't know, man. I still don't know the answer to this day. Maybe when they figure that out, they're so entrenched, and that's the thing also. You're so entrenched in your practice area, it is not an easy feat to re-identify yourself. You know what I mean? And I get it. I'll be honest, I don't get it because I'm always doing it. I get it, but I don't ascribe to the acceptance of that.
I think people see all the billboards and all the advertisements, and they're like, that's what I have to be. I have to be a personal injury attorney. Yeah. Because they're advertising all over the place. They definitely make the most money. That's what I have to do. But then you get into the field, you realize there's a limited amount of cases. There's only so many people that get in car accidents. Not to mention, those cases are shrinking. There's self-driving cars are coming, accidents are down. In 10 years, the industry could be wiped out.
Let me tell you something. So, Jibrael Consulting, everybody watching out there, of course, you've heard of the Pump Mastermind they do every month. But as Zane knows, as my team back there knows, there's another component to Jibrael Consulting which is not readily advertised, and there's a reason, because it's an offer that's only for lawyers. And what I've started doing is, I've been doing consumer protection for over a decade now, and I'll say this as humbly as possible, I've mastered it in many ways, and in some cases, reinvented it. With that being said, I've been actually selling my knowledge and wisdom to personal injury lawyers and criminal defense lawyers and other saturated markets. And as part of one of the offers of Jibrael Consulting, I've been teaching them how to do what we do. And my first call with them, and some of you guys are watching out there that I'm working with right now, my first call with them is literally, I asked them what I just said. Why are you under that rotten tree with all these people? Like, what's going on? And they don't know. They didn't even say it's because they can't, it's hard to remember. They're like, this is what I did. Okay. And now I'm showing them a path of least resistance, a path where we could settle cases within 3 months, a path where we're getting cases for the literally, when I say fraction, no, maybe like a tenth, maybe even less of the cost, a fifth of the cost for a personal injury case or a criminal case. I got Cole back there shaking his head like, Cole is not a lawyer, but he's a businessman. He's like, he's mind boggled every day about this. But yeah, we're changing lives out there, these lawyers. We're changing, I'm working with one lawyer right now, and I remember when he signed up with me a couple months ago and took Jibrael Consulting up on his offer. He looked at me in the face, or on the phone. I felt it was in my face. He said, I need to do better for my family. He said, Jibrael, we both have the same law license. You've been practicing less time than me. You're doing something right. My response is, you're right. Let's do this. So there are ways out. Jibrael Consulting offers one of those ways out, but you have to accept that there's a better way. And I know I'm talking a lot. I'm gonna put the mic back on you, but I want to say one more side thing. You have to accept that there's better ways, and this is called accountability for yourself. A lot of people lack simple accountability of themselves. As I was driving here, I was talking to one of those people on the phone. They will point fingers everywhere before they point fingers at themselves. If you want to be more than average, you have to be able to develop a team. If you want to have a team that is effective, they will only be effective if they respect you. The only way a team at its minimal level is going to respect you is if they can ask from you what you are asking of a team. And one of those fundamental things are accountability. If I cannot be held myself accountable when I am wrong, or when I'm slipping, or when I'm slacking, or when I'm not going 100%, who the heck am I to demand that from my team? And you know this, Zane. Zane, when we're building our team, right? I don't know if it's not a trick question, but what do we say in the type of personnel we want? It's a pretty simple kind of saying.
Yeah, just our 4 principles.
The 4 principles, but also, do we not look for the best?
Oh, we hire slow and fire fast. That's what we say. Yep.
We hire slow because it's a slow process to find the best.
Yeah.
We fire fast. And I've shown this, and guys, we're going on to other principles here, okay? Personnel, people, okay? You have to have the right people. I'm gonna let you go into this. Zane, I know I'm hogging this mic, but I get excited over this stuff, man. I love this stuff, okay? You have to make sure you're not being, because I've been there, penny wise and pound foolish. You've heard that saying? There are lawyers out there that I have paid $80,000 to because I didn't want to pay the other lawyer $120,000. But with that $80,000 lawyer that I paid, I got maybe $80,000 worth of.
You get the person that clocks in and clocks out and puts their head down at their desk.
Legally, are they doing anything wrong? No. Morally, no. But you want to be better than average. It starts at the bottom. Honestly, thank God, I don't look at the price anymore of human resources. I just look for the best.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into this later. I want to turn the mic back to you, but I'll say one more thing. Because when you get the best, like you, it's another story on how to keep them. We'll talk about that later. I've touched on a lot of things. I'm sure there's some things you want to interject on.
Yeah. Kind of going back to the personal injury stuff, actually a pretty funny story. The only time, so I kind of went into law school kind of blindly, and I'm like, I want to be a consumer protection attorney. I kind of hope it works out. Let me just try my best in law school, work as hard as I can. I ended up graduating #1. Let's just hope it works out, and this ends up being as lucrative as I thought it would be. I'm going through law school, and I'm not going to say the specific personal injury attorney, but he's got billboards all over Tampa, which is where I was living during law school. I'm originally from Tampa. Billboards all over the place, giant office building on like one of the main streets in Tampa. And my friend one day points out his house, and he's like, that's his house. The most average looking house, the most average looking car. And I'm like, wow, like, I guess if I make it even as a lawyer, like, I'm not going to really make as much money as I thought I would.
Right.
And that was the only time in law school where I kind of doubted myself.
Yeah.
And then I open up Instagram and I see you're buying a Lamborghini. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're like, shit, I can find more lucrative areas, right?
Yeah.
There are lucrative areas in every industry, even if you don't see it. They are there. But you got to be willing to dig through and get yourself there. That's what we really talked about, in the first half of the show. But it really comes back to that, is at any measurable element, there's ways that you can just be average. You can be below average. We don't even want to talk about stuff because we're all above that, guys, okay? But there are people that underperform. In school, there were people that underperformed. In law, there are lawyers that underperform financially, okay? But a lot of this stuff is based on having the literal energy and effort to actually want to be more than average. And if you genuinely have that, and it's not just a little fad over the weekend, like, oh, I'm pumped up, I want to do this, but it actually becomes ingrained in you. It's not rocket science. What we do is not rocket science. You know,
it's not.
Is there a lot of every day, there's a lot of learning that we do. Trial and error.
People act like it's rocket science when they try to get intel on what's going on.
Every time we hire new people, which in the last month we probably hired 6 people, and we're talking about lawyers, okay, and paralegals, and it never fails. Whenever somebody out there finds out that somebody's working with me, they go and they try to ask them, what is Jibrael doing? What is Zane doing? And number one, it's ridiculous that they do that. But number two, the people that are asking it really have nothing else to say because it comes down really to just sheer determination. Yeah. Here's the first rule for anybody out there that's trying to figure out what is the secret sauce inside my firm and what are we doing and all this. Don't put time into other people. Put time into yourself. Literally, that's the time they're doing all this snooping around stuff. You could have been on Westlaw and trying to figure out what Greenwald's next move is. Shit, you can even piggyback off me. It's I expect people are going to do that, but you know what they can't do? they cannot replicate the hustle. That's something you got, or that's something you're willing to build on, you simply don't. I want to talk about one more thing. Supersonic vision. Supersonic vision. Supersonic vision is something that the Pump Mastermind every month revolves around. But I think it's a must to talk about this here. Do you remember before how we were talking about how, going through stress has so many different dynamics from it, actually feeling the stress, actually your body reacting to it, actually bad things happening, but then actually good things happening, and then actually like these peripheral things happening where now you can anticipate the stress, so that actually is an asset to you, and now the stress is kind of a strength because you're anticipating it. And it's kind of a game on its own of being able to catch it when it comes and to be able to minimize it as efficiently as possible. You see these like dynamics here? This is one little piece of supersonic vision. Supersonic vision is basically a compilation of that type of principle in different aspects of your life and business. What do I mean by that? I've been in business 20 years. Whoever you are out there, hypothetically, the hypothetical person, you haven't. I've been through a lot of things that you don't even know can happen to you, okay? Supersonic vision is not something that I can teach you. It's not something that you can buy. It's only something that you can gain on your own through experience. And ultimately, once you have supersonic vision, here's the cool part about it. Is it a coincidence that, you guys watching out there, if you follow me, you know all the different businesses I'm in, all the different sectors, okay? From aviation to kava to real estate to law, and thank God, I do live in Fort Lauderdale. I'm in Miami right now, but I'm not a Miami influencer guy. Thank God, number one, that's the case. It's all real, and there's a reason why, again, thank God that I'm successful in so many things, and it's because of the supersonic vision that I've developed over the years. Now, when I start a business, I can already look 10 steps ahead. I can already identify catastrophic things that happened in the earlier years. At the pump, and this is the last time I'm going to mention this because I need people to understand the importance of this. At the pump, again, I can't teach it to something to experience, but I can hone you in on what experiences you must be making sure you're going through and taking. And this is what PUMP stands for. And it's no more secret, okay? P is perception. I talked for about an hour and a half about perception. Perception is everything. U, urgency, speed and urgency. Do we operate with speed?
Absolutely.
Speed is literally a consideration that's taken on everything that we do.
Especially in our industry where case law, practice area changes on a dime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if that practice area changes, if you're not diversified, if you're not hedged, as we discussed, that practice area disappears, and you're not all that, you disappear. It's almost happened to us. We learned from that. We got supersonic vision in our speed. So pump, P is for perception. Perception is everything. U is urgency. Always be acting with a state of urgency. Always be conducting yourself with speed. M, Cole, what does M stand for? M stands for marketing. But the way we market is different. And that's a different topic on its own. I'll give you a little clue, guys. My marketing doesn't mean social media, TV, and all that. I don't scale my marketing. I scale my perception. It sounds very abstract, but it's a real thing. And that's why when people go to pump, they're fucking mind blown. Excuse my language. And the last P is what we just touched on. And that's why I want to mention it, guys, because I'm giving the goods out here tonight. The last P is for people. People. You're so capped out without the understanding of how important people are to you. And I'll give you one general rule, but I talk about people for a whole hour and a half at the pump mastermind. Here's one very important general rule that I think it's a safe bet if you don't know nothing about how to treat people, which unfortunately a lot of people don't know nothing about how to treat people. Treat people on your team just as good as, or preferably better than you treat yourself. There's many ways to do that. I know I'm all over the place, guys, but I'm really trying to compress. And these are real effective ways of how to avoid being average, what to do to not be average, and what average looks like and what average doesn't look like. I promise the last sentence. Lawyers out there, law students out there, it's not all about money. But money is a major issue. That's what Miami stands for. Money is a major issue. Pitbull album, first Pitbull album. I find that necessary because we're in Miami right now. Money is a major issue, whether you want to believe it or not. And there are lawyers out there that are making millions of dollars a month. And there's lawyers out there that are losing money every month. We both have the same license. So listen up to what we're doing. Fortunately, we're doing good. Fortunately, what we are talking about today, we actually live in it. We didn't take a course to learn how to speak about it. We can speak about it because we live in it. Zane, I promise you the mic back. Please proceed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Just speaking in terms of urgency and how important that is for us. It's not just about going into the new practice area, but getting into the practice area you're getting into. Like I can think of one that we're involved in right now. I'm not going to say it, but we know that there's appellate rulings that are pending. When you see that, that should be a very scary thing. Like I got to get in and out of this practice area.
Gotta get in, get the bread, and get out.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of lawyers don't really think about because they think about procedurally speaking, what's the next step in this case?
Yeah, I know.
They think of the federal rules of civil procedure or the state rules if you're practicing in state court.
For most lawyers, that's like 70% of like their subconscious.
Yeah.
For us, it's like 20%.
And the problem with most lawyers is they spend so much time just underwater in briefs and all this stuff. They don't take any time to come up for air.
Yeah.
Something that I do is at least once a quarter, preferably once a week, once a month, and once a quarter. You got to come up for air, and you have to look at everything that's on your plate, and you have to prioritize in terms of, hey, what's going to make me the most money here? For the stuff that's not, how do I kind of get around these issues? How do I solve these problems? I mean, you've got active cases, obviously, that are sitting there. You have to do what's best for your client. But, of course, at the same time, it's not impossible to do what's best for your client and have a business-oriented mindset. It's very much possible at the same time.
Absolutely. And the speed issue, the sense of urgency touches every aspect of our firm. Not just like procedurally, but also in the way our mechanics are. You know, even the speed of building a new system is calculated. You know, even right now we're working on AI things that's going to make the speed of getting 1,000 new cases in the door perhaps go from 5 months to like 2 hours. These are very distinct utilizations of speed, but we're cognizant of the function of speed in every element of the firm.
And systems.
And systems.
Systems are how you achieve speed.
Correct.
At the end of the day.
And this goes back to, do you guys see where this is all business principles? You know, we've talked a lot about economic and business principles and management principles. We've only talked a little bit about the law. And that is how it is in the real life. A lot of times, the resolution of cases rarely go down to the merits of the case, right? It goes usually to business judgment discussions and business judgment, views of the case. And we experience that.
I've actually found you'll have so much more success if you discuss business judgment with opposing counsel, this is the thing that they don't teach you in law
Yeah.
school. So much more success if you.
Did you learn that with me a lot? 'Cause
Yeah.
I've always been a big proponent of that, and it's the way I practice.
If you discuss business judgment with opposing counsel as opposed to the merits, you'll have success. 90% of opposing counsel this works with, but you'll just have so much more success. In law school, they make it seem like everything's about the merits.
Yeah, because you read these case laws, and you're literally reading case laws for 3 years. You're assuming that everything goes through the
Yeah.
case law, right?
Yeah.
But it's really the opposite. It's like 1% actually made it to have a decision.
Yeah, so I had this perception of consumer law when I was in law school. I'm like, hey, these cases, you file a complaint, you go through discovery, you go through motion practice, and then at the end you get your fees. What if the company just wants to pay, a certain amount of money just to make it go away, less than what they're gonna have to pay their attorneys? That's what they don't teach you in law school.
Are there people in the chat, Cole? What were you had to switch screens? What were you doing? Okay. Is there people in the chat? Okay. Does anybody want to ask a quick question out there? Cole, what should we remind? Sorry, before I forget, what should we remind the viewers about? What practice area, what law? I want to help you out tonight. FDCPA. Okay.
I think you can do FDCPA and I can do TCPA.
Okay. All right. Any questions out there?
Yeah, we had one earlier. It was from a law student. And he said, Jibrael, if you can go back to when you were in law school, what would you change and what would you focus more on knowing you will open up your own firm?
What was the end of that question? What was the most what?
Would you change and what would you focus more on knowing you will open up your own firm?
Oh, brother, here's the problem with that question. I can't answer it in the way you want me to, but I'll answer it in a better way. I always knew I wanted to open my law firm. So I don't need to change anything because I literally pursued law school with that understanding. So what did I do? I paid attention to civil procedures. I interned, when you have, in your second year, when you can go do an internship, whatever, I internship with a civil judge. Shout out to my dear sweetheart, Judge Marina Garcia Wood, who gave me the opportunity when a lot of judges didn't because I had a really checkered past, which we fixed. And Judge Marina Garcia Wood said to me, Jibrael, and I will never forget this, I'm gonna pass it on. Jibrael, I believe in giving people second chances. And she allowed me to intern for her for that summer. And to this day, that's what allowed me to be where I am today, because I would have not had civil experience without her. I wouldn't know what a complaint is or look like. I wouldn't know what an answer was. I wouldn't know what discovery actually looked like, okay? So to answer your question, sir, if you want to do your own thing, I'm assuming, based on what I said, you're not gonna go criminal, right? So you're gonna go civil, okay? Go get some civil experience. Know what a pleading is, know what a response, what motion to dismiss is, what discovery is, summary judgment, everything. Appeals. Understand that system. Yep. Give it to Zane.
How do you cultivate and manage your risk appetite?
I think we can each answer that. You can go first.
Yeah, I mean, so just going back to what I was talking about adversity and going through adversity and, having times in your life where you've actually failed and you've actually fallen on your face, that really makes you think, what's the absolute worst thing that's going to happen? If I open this business, what's the absolute worst thing that's going to happen? And as soon as you can get into that mindset, combined with the mindset of, if it doesn't work out, it's completely on me. Yeah. If you're going to work, let's just say you're going to work for Big Law. Big Law is very internally political. Yeah. Your advancement and your climbing the ladder to become a partner might not be dependent on your work ethic and your talent.
Capabilities, yeah.
It's very political.
Very political.
In fact, I
Seniority,
say this,
that's bullshit. Yeah.
big law might even be riskier because of that.
I agree.
Because it's not dependent solely on you. It's dependent on politics to see if you rise up.
That you have zero control of.
And if you don't rise up, you either plateau.
Or you could have the wrong opinion on something, or you could say the wrong word.
Exactly.
You're literally 8-ball for the rest of your life.
And if that happens, you either plateau and you're an associate forever, or you get pushed out.
Listen to what he just said. Very important. I will still answer his question in more detail. Guys, law students, this is a fact. I'm gonna step out there and say this is a fact. Going to work, having the goal of going to work at a law firm after law school is 1,000 times more risky than opening your own practice. I said it, it's the truth. It is. For reasons Zane said, and we could discuss for a long time. If you guys want to talk about this, we can talk about it. Let me answer that question also about how do I make risk decisions, essentially is what he's asking. How do I weigh that? Here's the cool thing about law. So like in blackjack, right? If I bet 100, what's the most I can win? 100. If I get a blackjack, I can win like 125, right? It's like your odds are that. It's 1 to 1, or you lose 100. In law, you can make synthetic. I still trade options. So you can have situations where $1 can yield you 1,000. In other words, you have to understand that there's many situations out there that, if you look at the pros and cons, it's so lopsided and con heavy versus pro heavy. I focus on looking for the pros, and essentially my risk goes to almost zero. That is the beauty of owning your own law firm. You get to choose the bets, so to speak, that you make. You get to choose the game. You know, like synonymously, like I can choose baccarat, I can choose blackjack, I can choose roulette in the casino, and in the realm of law, I can choose TCPA, FCCPA, FCRA. So you get to pick the game, and you get to set your own odds based on case selection. Can you guys tell I'm a little bit of a gambler? Okay, so here's something cool, guys. This is very important too. Because I play poker at the highest stakes. I play on TV. I play on streams. And people out there in the poker world know me. And when you get aces, this is a problem. Also, I had to show this to Zane. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes very rarely, but sometimes we get aces in the house.
Yeah.
Our house is not a casino; it's a law firm. It's almost the same thing. So we'll get dealt pocket aces, and what do we mean by that? We get dealt a slam dunk case. And and Zane, he agrees with me a lot of stuff, but sometimes he has to see it, which is fine. I get it. And then he's like, "Holy shit, you're right." We had one of those situations the other day. When you get your aces, go all in. A lot of people get those aces, and they're playing them like they got like a 5-6 suited, or like, I don't know, king, queen off. You have to know what you're holding, and you have to play it accordingly. And there is a right way to play it, and there's a wrong way to play it. On the other hand, when you got 7 deuce off suit, stop putting money into that. In other words, you got a practice area that's bleeding. I'll be honest, I think personal injury is a 7 deuce off suit. And people are stuck in it. And I think what I got going, and it changes, we pivot all the time. What we're doing changes. It's still within consumer law. I know how to deal myself aces through supersonic vision, not through cheating, through supersonic vision.
There's a bunch of good questions. How do you manage treating your employees very well without the potential that they take advantage of your kindness?
I do not respond very well to people that are unappreciative. So, taking advantage of your kindness is basically showing a form of unappreciation. And we don't have that in our firm because I don't allow it to happen in our firm. And when people like Zane and Gerald, and even you, Cole, see how I operate, your standards, have they not become the same? That's how it's done. To answer your question, stay true to your principles, honesty, integrity, loyalty, accountability. That's our firm 4 principles. Stay true. I stay true to them. And when I stay true to them as a leader, the next layer of leaders stay true to them. Lead by example and have principles.
Here's a good one. How do you stay calm and strategic when the legal side of the business gets intense?
It's always intense. And you realize that very fast. Because in the beginning, you're like, I got to work extra hard so that we're not in the stressful area. And then like 10 years go by, you're like still in a stressful area, even though you got the brightest people around you. It's the nature of the business. It's like saying like in basketball, like when will it be a point where the ball's not dribbling? No, it's the nature of the fucking game. The ball's dribbling on the court, you know?
Yeah, I think if you diversify your practice areas, you can mitigate that to a certain extent.
Correct.
But at the same time, like
That's a given.
It's just always going to be there, and it has to be something you have to be able to tolerate.
Yeah, and I guess to be clear, my answer was even if you're operating the most efficient state, even if you're doing all the things we said you should be doing, that stress is still going to be there. Here it is. Gamify your stress. Make it a challenge, like I said. You can literally shift in your mind the same stress that you're talking about and the same stress that I recognize you're talking about, and we can have two totally different mental and physical reactions to it. Gamify that thing.
And just in terms of stress, kind of going back to a topic we touched on earlier, the key that I kind of figured out with stress, if you put in the work on the weekends where no one else is putting in work and you don't have emails coming in and everything, the stress goes down so much. My best days of the week are Monday and Friday, especially Monday, because I've had Saturday and Sunday to catch up on everything, you know, come up for air and see kind of the lay of the land and what do I need to attack this week. And Friday's great because I know I have the whole weekend to catch up. The emails can come in.
You know, I know Zane is doing all this stuff in the dark because he just described something that you don't understand unless you're actually doing it. I say this all the time also. And it kind of relates to procrastination. Not really indirectly, I'll explain. A lot of times through the week, I'll be dreading that thing that I got to get done. I just haven't had time to do it, and I literally stress from it because I'm dreading it. And then I finally get the opportunity to do it. I knock it out in 10 minutes. I'm like, was it worth that thing? But a lot of times, people will not knock it out on the weekend. They'll procrastinate. Now that stress is going. And remember, guys, like I said, we're not machines. We're human. You keep procrastinating. You let those stresses build, even though they may not justifiably produce such stress. But they do, you know? It's going to hurt. Avoid procrastination at all costs. Whenever you have something that you need to do and you have that opportunity to do it, instead of making an excuse, say, I'm a champion and I'm not gonna take the easy way out right now. I'm gonna fight in my brain. You're talking to yourself and no, I'm gonna do it right now and do it right now. And you're gonna see you did it fairly quickly. It wasn't that hard. You feel better. You feel accomplished. And now you're starting to hardwire your brain to be that way. One thing I wanna say, and I say this, I talk about this at the pump. Man, you guys today are getting a lot of stuff from Pump. You're saving money here. Someone that is addicted to playing video games and that, I don't want to sound mean, but perhaps can be classified as an unproductive person. That was hardwired. They at some point, their happiness or gratification was hardwired and directly connected to playing that game. Or it could be a lot of things, right? Also in business, when you're fighting against procrastination, you're complete objective. That can also be as a hardwired like gift, and that's honestly that's a big reason why me and Zane continue to win, because we're hardwired to it, but we were not born like that, and it comes from making the tough decision and the tough task of the time is always now. Right now, I'm going to do it, and doing that a few times, you know. Does that make sense, Cole?
Yeah. I got a really good one for you right now. Have you ever had a partner, employee, or anyone that you trusted betray you? So, how do you respond?
Yeah, like probably twice last Sunday, literally. And by the way, not to air dirty laundry, but I got royally fucked, and I say that objectively. For me to say that, especially on a live show, means it really did happen. Anyway, what was the question about that? How did I handle it?
Yeah, how do you respond?
How did I respond? Happy. You know why? Here's a cool thing. Remember those 4 principles I told you about? Honesty, integrity, loyalty, and accountability. When you actually live in that world, as I do, you know that you need fuck nobody. Excuse my language. And you know that whoever tried to, I'm saying again, whoever tried to or actually did fuck you, you have all the right to do what you got to do to make things right. The cool thing is, if your hands are clean, a lot of times it handles itself. Actually, almost all the time it does. The point is this, to answer the question. As long as you know you're doing the right thing, of course, you have to put effort into things, but God will handle it. Justice will be served. Don't kill yourself internally if you know you're clean. If you're not clean, that's another story. You deserve stress or whatever, okay? You deserve what's coming to you. That's the truth. But that's why I say, try to stay true to yourself. And if you're playing the right defense, it's also offense of keeping those principles. You don't got to worry about that. You know? And when you have those principles, that means you probably build a good team of people around you for support. You know?
What is your marketing channel that brings you the most clients?
You. Not you, Cole. The guy to answer that question. Social media. But to be serious, Cole and Doug have taken that to all new levels. And Cole and Doug are part of Jibrael Consulting, and we are taking a lot of law firms to different levels by Cole and Doug through Jibrael Consulting, showing them how to get cases that would probably cost them, let's say, $2,000 for like $20. And Cole and Doug have mastered that. Anybody that tried to take Cole and Doug from me because I said that, you better think twice. Next question.
That's pretty much all of the questions, unless there's still some remaining.
Video producer, brother, how we looking on timing?
We've been live for an hour 20.
Whoa. I think we got to wrap this up. Hey, brother. Hey, shout out. I'm so sorry. What's your name again? Danny, behind the cameras, behind the systems. He was monumental for us being here tonight. If it was not for him, we would not be able to. I was an hour and a half late, and he's the one that came through and decided to stay from the whole company late. And I want to give a shout out to this company. What's the company here? We Move.
The Move.
The Move. I'm sorry, guys. Beautiful place. This is my second episode here. I have a podcast studio at home, but guess what? When I have access to a team doing it, I can just focus on really what I'm here to do, is to share this knowledge. It's worth every single dollar. So huge shout out to the team. Danny, highly recommended. Yeah. Let's do some closing remarks. Zane, you could do it. You could start off.
Yeah. So I mean, the title of this was why do most lawyers stay average?
You want to try to throw out these things we touched on? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we touched on number one, you got to actually want to not be average and put in that effort. What else? Let's quick shoot it.
You can't get too tied up in the practice of law. You have to look at things from a business aspect. You have to come up for air every now and then and look at what's on your plate and look at it from a business aspect.
And you got to go out there and get that business.
Yep.
And I gave you some tools today on how to do that. Those are actually the most effective tools. That's how I found the practice area of consumer protection law. Literally, the industry. I was looking at cases because before that, I was doing door law. What is door law? Whatever walks in the damn door. Okay. Shout out to Scott Owens. He was the first consumer protection lawyer that showed me the ropes. Congratulations on your beautiful family, Scott. Let's shoot out some more.
You got to have the right people, and when you have the right people, you got to take care of them.
And you have to make an effort of getting the best you can possibly get.
Yeah, the best. Don't settle for anything but the best.
You have to have principles that you stand for, objectively stand for, and you're known for standing on those principles. Because I didn't say this before, reputation is everything also. We do multi-million-dollar deals on a weekly basis with lawyers that we've been working with for years that know that just our word, we're not even talking about handshake, word is gold. And there are many lawyers that have been blackballed from their practice areas, from opposing counsels, because they don't keep their word. Keep your fucking word. Keep your word, guys. Very important. What else we talk about?
You have to have systems, and specifically your mindset has to be using those systems to act with speed and urgency.
Speed and urgency. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and we have to also understand that we can determine risk. We can very closely analyze risk, and we have to be able to squeeze full value. That was something I said recently, but I always say it inside the office. I said it in Pump. Leave nothing on the table. Leave nothing. Quick example, like I said, if somebody calls into my office, there's many ways to not leave money on the table. If they're calling about personal injury, I don't do personal injury, they're gonna know about FCRA, they're gonna know about TCPA, they're gonna know about FDCPA, and 9 out of 10 times they will come back as a client. But there's so many ways to do that. And I teach that at the Pump Mastermind, and I also teach it to individual lawyers that I mentor in those offers that I talked about before. Guys, if you're a lawyer out there, if you're a law student that's gonna be a lawyer soon, and you wanna make sure you're leading with your best foot forward, speed. You don't wanna go 5 years into your career and you realize, shit, was this the smartest practice area to go into? It's tough, but it happens. Some people are in it 30 years thinking like that. Lawyers out there, let's say you're working for a big law firm, right? You're not even building your own name. You're working your tail off. With all that time you're putting in, reach out to me. I can't guarantee anything. We're lawyers. We can't guarantee nothing. But remember, I have the same law license that you have. Let's just leave it at that. Anything else?
I've got nothing else. Yeah.
Guys, this is episode 2. And the flow of this, I have to say, was a lot nicer than episode 1. Let's look at this as a business in itself. I'm trying to improve every single time. I'm trying to be above average. I'm literally, as we speak, practicing what I'm preaching. Zane, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being part of the firm. But more importantly, I want to thank you for understanding what it means to be a man, understanding what principles are, standing behind those principles, and actually becoming a leader at the firm, arguably the leader. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. It was an honor to be this guest.
Guys, is it off yet or no? Are they still there? Guys, guess what? To my people that like fitness or to my people that want to get into fitness, episode 3, 2 weeks from now, I don't know the exact date, but it's going to be 2 Thursdays from now, we got the legendary 4-time Olympia IFBB Pro Men's Physique, my brother, Stephen Cow, is coming on the show. And that's going to be a nice show. I have a lot of a following of pro bodybuilders and amateur bodybuilders. That is something that's very closely ingrained in me. A lot of my character comes from that. And I want to share with the world what that's all about. And of course, the people out there that are competing, amateurs, because I remember when I was an amateur, I wanted to know the insights. How do I turn pro? And me and Steven know how to get there. And Steven has taken it to the next level, multiple time Olympias. Stephen Cow, episode 3, to my team back there, Doug, Cole, and everybody else out there, and Jibrael Law Firm, thank you for everything. Let's keep going. We go for everything.